So before we get started, this is all the tools you're going to need for this project. You're going to need a pair of pliers, a 12 millimeter wrench, a 6 millimeter socket, a Phillips head screwdriver, a contact tip cleaner, and a can of carb cleaner, and a little hose that attaches to the end of it. Alright, so the first thing you're going to have to do is take off this fuel line right here, the piston housing right here, and then your choke, which is right here. This is what will go on the 12 millimeter wrench to take that off. This will just unscrew, and you'll have to use your pliers to get this little clamp off, and then this will just pull up. So then, once all that's off, you're going to have gas pour out of here because there should be gas in your carburetor, and if not, then it's really plugged. You're going to take off these 4 bolts with your Phillips head screwdriver to get into the bowl of the carburetor, which is where most of the dirt and sediment gets trapped. Alright, so once you have the bolts removed, you'll just pull this right off. If you haven't cleaned your carburetor before, this might be hard because of this gasket right here. And there is a chance, if you're taking it off for the first time, this gasket will rip, and you're going to have to get it replaced. It's around $3 usually for a carburetor gasket. But inside here we have our floats, which they have to be able to move freely. If a float sticks, that can mess with the performance of your carburetor. And on this carburetor, these have been cleaned before quite a few times, so they move pretty well. We can just set that off to the side, we don't need it. So what we're working on cleaning here today is we gotta unplug our jet and all these other holes right here. And to do that, we're also gonna have to take this off to get down in there to the needle and seat. Alright, so once you have all that removed, then you'll use your contact tip cleaner that would usually be used for acetylene torches. This works really good with carburetors because it gives you all this variety of needles to use. So you just got to go through and usually pick out a pretty small one. And it's just got to go down in this hole that you'll see that your needle sits in. You just stick it down there. You clean stuff out. And do the same thing with your jet and all these little holes. This will help if you have any blockage that carb cleaner won't take out, and really useful.
So we might have a blockage there. There it goes.
Alright, so now that you've gotten all that cleaned with your contact tip cleaner, the next thing you're going to want to use is your carb cleaner, which is the main thing for cleaning these. There's 2 ways to use this stuff. You can either get a bucket of it from like a hardware store and just soak the carburetor in it overnight if it's really bad, or you can do what I'm doing and just spray all these little holes and plugs out. So when you do this, you just put the hose down in there. And stuff should shoot out somewhere else. Like for that one, putting in the jet and it's just shooting right out the bottom because this hole leaks straight out. And then you'll just keep doing that to all these. one's good. This one's a little bit tricky. But it's going to shoot out the sides of the pipe too, because there's little breathe holes in it. And once all that's clean, then you're going to come up here and there's going to be a hole right there and a hole up here that need to also get sprayed. Alright, and that's all you got to do. Alright, and so the other thing you want to do is make sure this is all nice and clean and shiny in here before you start putting things back together. And the same with this. You don't want any dirt or anything in there, so you can just wipe the rim with a paper towel or something. And then all this is good. Make sure no hoses or lines are cracked when you're putting this back together. And we'll start by putting on the needle and seat. So this is your needle. All you got to do is just set it down in the hole. Then you'll set this in there after it. And then you'll put your pin through. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. You might have to take a hammer to hit it once on there. Make sure it seats good. And then for your jet, you'll put this little washer down right there. We'll stick our jet in and just thread that in there. To get it off, you need a 6mm socket. That's all you got to do. Alright, so then we'll come back to this bowl. You want to make sure this is clean too. Make sure all these slide good. Should just fall down like that well. You can spray this out really quick just because we have it off. Clean it all out and we can just dump this stuff out of here. And you got to make sure this isn't cracked too. This will cause a lot of problems for your sled if this isn't sealing because all the gas fills up down here. But we can put this back on now. Alright, so now that we have the carburetor all back together, it's time to put all of our lines back on. To set this in over here, this is the trickiest thing to set in because it goes in a specific way. There's these lines right here, and you got to make sure it goes down all the way. So we'll set it in there, and it's right here, it's not in all the way. You got to make sure it slides down further because this right here would be about wide open throttle. So you just kind of force it a little bit. Then you get that on there and you just start threading it. Then you get all that tight. And then this is your choke. Nothing complicated about putting that on. Just put it on, get the threads to start, and you're good to go. And then you just got to put your fuel line on, and that's it. Your carburetor's all back together and it'd be good to go. And then normally you would have 2 sleeves on either side. This sled's getting rebuilt, so obviously there's nothing there. But normally there'd be a sleeve right here that this side would go into, and then that would connect you to your engine. Then there'd be a sleeve right here that would go into your air box, and you just kind of got to wedge this in and make sure it's sealed nice and tight. So to give you an idea how this should look, this part of the carburetor right here, where there's this little nub right here that comes up, that would seat right here on the air box, which I have taken off right now. And this, you can pull these out. They're kind of a pain in the butt to get back in once they're out, but it's doable. The best way to do that is with a screwdriver, but you just seat that in there, and then the one connected to the engine, which would be connected right here, would be going in on the other side of your carburetor. And then once all that's done, your sled should run right as long as you're getting the good gas flow from your fuel pump, and yeah, it'd be all good and dandy. Alright, just wanted to say at the end of this video, thanks for watching, and if you have any more questions about cleaning a carburetor on a snowmobile or a dirt bike or anything like that, just leave it in the comments below. Hope this video was a help. Thanks. Have a good one.